All right, Facebook, it is time to talk about Oklahoma severe weather and the storm systems that'll be heading our way. And the big question is, with all the hype already starting, the big hype train, you got storm chasers out there probably plotting gloom and doom already and ringing hell's bells for Sunday and who knows what. So I'm here to put all your fears at ease and calm your anxiety. Keep in mind, as we always talk about, it is pointless to allow yourself to get worked up for days on end. A lot of those times, this stuff never pans out. And you know my rule of thumb, 48 hours is the max distance and time that you really want to talk about for tornadic potential and that kind of deal. Otherwise, garden variety thunderstorms, yeah, you can mention that a week away, 10 days away, 15 days away, big deal. We get storm systems in here, and this time of year, that's what they're going to do, as long as they got some moisture to work with and the timing is right. Otherwise, you can deal with fire danger as well until the growing season really kicks in. We get everything all nice and greened up, which takes about half of our spring season to do. So I want to thank you for joining me here at AT's Weather. We are here to talk about some fun stuff. And you know I do like to give a little, I don't call it a classroom session. It's just a more scientific, in-depth look at the weather forecast and how we kind of arrive to that conclusion into that scenario. So I want to thank you for joining me here. This is the first event that I've kind of scheduled in advance just to kind of test something different. Otherwise, I typically just pop on live for you. As I go throughout the spring, I'll continue to do that. We've got enough of you out there right now kind of tuning in. So let's go ahead and get down to business here. So I want to make sure everything is up and running. Everything looks good. And all of you guys can hear me. So I want to thank you again for joining me. And let's talk about some weather, shall we? Okay. Get on it down to business. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the computer models that's going to come into our neck of the woods here over the next, let's say, 3 storm systems. So let's get you on here. Okay, so the first storm system that we have is going to be in this little area right here, this bright color on the map. And this is anchored over Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas. So this is in Southern Plains. And this is for Friday afternoon. So this is the first system coming on in. Now, as we go through time, that'll move on out. And guess what? We got another system quickly on its heels. It's a lot weaker. It's a lot smaller. And this is on Sunday. So once again over Oklahoma and Kansas for Sunday afternoon. And then after that one, we've got, yes, another system lined up. This one's coming on in much slower, much broader, a little larger. And this one will come in, looks like Thursday, roughly, because when you're out this far, you got to give or take, 12 hours. But it looks like it's coming in during the morning hours on Thursday and making its way through, looks like northern Texas as far as the center of the storm system. And then, lo and behold, even after that one, if we go through into April, we've got another one on its heels that'll come in, looks like for April Fool's Day. All right, so there you go. So there's several storms lined up, 3 of those in the next 7 days or 8 days. And they will all produce some inclement weather here over the Southern Plains. Now, the devil is always in the details. So let's go ahead and jump into that. And the first one that's coming up, I want to show you. This is the center of the upper level low pressure system on Friday morning. It's already worked its way into western Oklahoma. This is the trough axis. What this means is that all the instability, all the lift in the atmosphere is already in this area here, moving on out. What that means is it's a day late and a dollar short. Remember earlier on Sunday night I told you don't worry about the severe weather threat for Friday because right now the timing looks terrible. The system's coming in too fast for Oklahoma. Maybe far eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas, Missouri will likely see the severe weather. And that looks like that's what's going to pan out. So this storm system has behaved accordingly here over the last few days. Nothing has changed in the timing or the speed. Let's see, there's Friday. Let's go to Friday evening here at 6 o'clock. And the system is already here through central Kansas. And as we said, trailing the trough axis already back through I-35. And really all your lift is now, at this point, for Friday evening, far southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, and then on in behind my head over there. There we go, to Arkansas, Missouri. So that's where you're going to find the inclement weather for Friday night. And that's mainly your garden variety thunderstorms, probably a squall line, a little bit of wind and hail mixed in. Otherwise, tornado threat should be extremely minimum. Usually when you get a squall line, it's very hard to get a decent tornado out of it because it needs a separate updraft away from the others. Otherwise, it kind of messes the storm dynamics up. So that's why when you get a squall line, it's typically a hail and wind event. Okay, So that is storm system number 1 on Friday. So what else will happen on Friday? Let me show you. See, this one is what I want here. Okay, so we go through time. This is going to be the radar simulation from the model. This will be Thursday night, so you can see some showers out here in the Panhandle. They'll move through Thursday night and a Friday morning across western and central Oklahoma. There's Friday morning, you're heading out to work. A little bit wet, but otherwise no big deal. That moves off to eastern Oklahoma by lunchtime on Friday, and then it looks like another round may try to redevelop in far northeast Oklahoma by late in the day into Missouri and Arkansas. That's going to be a big iffy if the atmosphere can recover. That'll be very questionable, and even then, those storms won't amount to too much. Now, we talked about the upper level low being kind of close to the Oklahoma border. Sometimes you're going to get the circulation rotating around these upper level lows when the cold air aloft will allow for what we call cold air funnels. Now, cold air funnels can be mistaken for tornado. They very rarely ever touch the ground, though. But you can see them. They'll be like a little bitty tiny finger funnel up there dangling in the sky. And that's usually all it is. So it's typically never a threat. And even if on a rare occasion they do come down, it would be equivalent of an EF0 tornado, so extremely weak. Winds probably in these kind of situations less than 50 miles per hour, something like that. So that's a cold core funnel. That is possible with that upper level low moving through the state Friday late afternoon in northwest Oklahoma. So if you see that, don't be surprised, but don't be scared either. Okay, so that's what's going to happen on Friday. So that takes care of that storm system. We got it out of the way. I'm going to show you the Storm Prediction Center, by the way. This is for Thursday. It's got a little bit of slight risk of severe weather out in the panhandle of Texas and western Kansas for a little bit of hail and wind. As we head on into Friday, it's got the severe weather risk roughly along I-35 all the way down into Texas, points eastward. But as we talked about, in my opinion, the severe weather threat really doesn't anchor itself until you get into far eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then probably down into the eastern half of Texas is fine. They're going to have a little bit more moisture. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. We'll get to that here in a second. And then if you look in the extended for the Storm Prediction Center, I think it's day 5. They got a little circle ring here for Sunday over central Oklahoma. So they're watching things, and they'll update these categories as we go through time. But so far, none of the wording in here is dire of nature. None of it's scary. None of it's Armageddon. None of it's outbreak. Anything like that. It's just thunderstorms for spring. All right. So I'm hoping, again, that's helping to ease some of your fears. Now, here's the main kicker. This is what I want to teach you. Until we get the Gulf of Mexico opened up. And what that means is all the instability down here that needs to pool around the Yucatan, the western sides of the Gulf, right in this area here I've got outlined in green. This is a spot you want to watch. When all this area here fills up with CAPE values around 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram, which is in this yellow box here, until that fills up constantly, and then that starts to work its way through into Texas and Oklahoma, that's when our severe weather season really gets going. And that's not going to happen for the month of March. Typically that happens for April and definitely for May. And that's been the case so far here. Now I'm going to show you a forward motion on this. And this is to put this into motion. This is for Friday on into Saturday. And you can see there wasn't much CAPE already here. Let me go back. This was Friday morning, Friday afternoon. The values in here are around a few hundred for eastern Oklahoma. CAPE values that low here in this part of the country doesn't mean much. Let's put it that way. As we go into time, let's see what happens for Sunday. All right, here we got some, looks like some CAPE values around 2 grand up around the Texas border. So 2,000 joules working the way up northward. Here it nosing into Oklahoma at the last second. So there's Sunday afternoon. And so you've got this little batch of instability has now worked its way in right here into central Oklahoma. And so that's why the Storm Prediction Center has put in that slight risk of severe weather. But as we talked about, the devil's in the details, and even though there's moisture there and some instability, it is what we call ankle deep, meaning it's not good depth of quality moisture, which means the storms are going to be anemic, they're going to have a tough time hanging on, the updrafts be a little weaker. Just means that the show, even though there may be a few severe thunderstorms, it won't be a widespread event as far as that's concerned. As we're going into time, that kind of moves on off. And then the atmosphere, does it try to reload for next week? There's Wednesday. Let's see, Wednesday, Thursday morning. Remember that little system we said would come in here Thursday morning? It never really reloads with the CAPE value. It's still stuck way down here offshore. So we'll go ahead and take a sneak peek on into April. And here we go. Okay. April 1st. See what I was talking about when this whole area starts to load up down here? Now we're talking. So when this is now persistent, which will be April 1st down here, then it can come northward, no problem, in Oklahoma and Texas. It'll be a deeper moisture source, a lot more instability, and then the storms we have around here will be a little more potent, more widespread, that kind of deal. But that, hey, we're on the calendar. That's what's going to happen. So till then, you're going to have a few storm systems roll through. Right now, nothing grabs my attention as anything, horrific or terrible. It's just Oklahoma weather. Do not see any huge, massive tornado events coming up anytime soon. Not to say you can't always get an isolated tornado at some point in the month of March. That's when we typically start to see them. But at least on the weather models and the pattern shaping up right now, it doesn't appear to be a big deal at this point. So let's see, what do I want to show you next? Tell you what. Okay, so let's go back into Oklahoma view. Okay, and then we'll go into, what I need to show you? I just thought of this. All right, let's show you the dew point values. And dew point value is a measure of raw moisture in the atmosphere, okay? So think of it as humidity, but it's something we can actually calculate a little bit better. All right, so we go through time. Dew point values rise into the 60s here and 50s on Thursday. That's what makes it feel a little bit more humid out there to you. We get some dry air entrainment in here for Friday, had this next system. Now, keep in mind, or keep watch, out here in western Oklahoma, this line right here. This is some seriously dry air coming in, poised Thursday night to make its way on eastbound. We talked about this on Sunday night, how it would jot east on Friday morning. So here we go from Friday morning through Friday afternoon. Oh, there we go. There's about 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. That dry line is surged way out here. All this dry air has moved in. Well, you can't get storms of dry air. That's for one thing. What you can get, though, is fires. So all it takes is some wind that's a little crazy, and you get these low humidity values, which I'll go ahead and plot a humidity value for you. They're in the 20s, so 20% humidity. Let's see, so yeah, there's some 30s and 20s. So you get that situation with, let's see, winds out of the west, gusting up to around, let's see, is it 30? Let's take a look here. In the category here, from 34 miles per hour, you're probably going to get a few wildfires. So that's the kind of the situation we got going here for our Friday afternoon for central and western Oklahoma, whereas a few storms or just some good rain for eastern Oklahoma. So that's kind of the synopsis for Friday. All right, so I wanted to show you that real quick before I moved on into this next deal. Okay, so let's go back to Sunday now, and this is the Cape values for Sunday. So this is what we talked about that would work its way in the Gulf of Mexico. Hey, get back over there. Where'd you go? All right, there we go. Try this again. Okay, so right here be the dry line that you would see. And so east of this boundary is where you're going to get your instability. So this is where your potential for thunderstorms are. Okay. Now, we talked about the dew point values, how important those are. Well, when it comes to storms, you really want dew points in the low 60s or better. Now, earlier in the year, you can get away with some 50s, but still, rule of thumb, for really good thunderstorm activity, you want at least some low 60s. If we look here, and this is by Sunday afternoon, our dew point values in Oklahoma City are already into the upper 40s on the west side of town and mid 50s on the east side of town. So all the 60s are far eastern sides of central Oklahoma on into southern Oklahoma. So that's where the better juice, if you would call it, resides. And even then, we talked about this as ankle deep, meaning it's not very thick. It's just very low level moisture. So that means the storms and the potential for all that would be in the moist sector. So that's not going to be in western Oklahoma. So on Sunday, let me plot. I got relative humidity on here. Let's see if I got this right. Where is it? Give me a second here. It's got to be on here somewhere. There it is. Okay. Relative humidity on here is in the 20 to 30% range across basically I-35 west. You know what that means? Again, Sunday, well, fire danger. Let's take a look at the wind speeds real quick, because that'll be the important factor as well. Let's see. Wind gusts. Where'd we go? You know what? Winds, well, Sunday afternoon, there's gusts to 30. But otherwise, they calm down quite a bit during the later part of the day, which is good. So maybe not necessarily as much of a fire danger for Sunday because the winds die down, even though the drier humidity will be in. But we're splitting hairs here this far out, so let's just go ahead and assume that it'll be a fire danger for the western half of the state, and some storms, a few of them there for the eastern half of the state. And I believe that's what the models will print out. So let's see. So here's Sunday lunchtime. Here is Sunday afternoon, late in the day, 6 o'clock or so. And it does indicate we're likely to see some showers develop here right on top of I-35. Maybe even a good thunderstorm down here near Ardmore or so. And then the next 6 hours from that, you see a lot more rain blows up here across eastern Oklahoma. But the rainfall amounts, 1/10 of an inch, 2/10. What that tells me is the model is struggling to produce some very heavy convection, which means without heavy convection, you don't get heavy, severe thunderstorms. So, hey, we'll take the rain just without the severe weather. So we'll see if that pans out. Again, this is Sunday, so there will be a slight risk of severe storms, and I'll be watching it for you. And I do plan on broadcasting live on Sunday, late afternoon and evening, if there is going to be a tornado risk. If it's just going to be a few thunderstorms, typically I'll pop up a live radar, but otherwise I'll just let it go. We'll go ahead and zoom on into, let's see, we said, Thursday of next week? So we got a little bit of rain with that one. Here we go. This is all looks like beneficial rain, maybe even some good heavy rain too. So not any severe weather with this. In Oklahoma, that is. And in Texas, sure, you're probably going to see some severe weather. So maybe from Dallas-Fort Worth, point southward again. Seems to be the kind of the northern fringe of the good moisture anyway. So there you go. That takes care of 3 systems. There's your 3 opportunities for rain. So we've got a little bit of a fire danger for Friday afternoon and also Sunday afternoon for the western half of the state. A few storms around for the eastern half of the state on both days. The severe weather threat very low, especially on Friday, extremely low, and then just kind of low on Sunday. There's one thing I can show you. Let me do that real quick, because this will also kind of help your questions about potential for tornadoes. And like I said, anytime we're this far out, remember what I talked about when you're talking about tornadoes or something like that, things change a lot, so you don't want to get too carried away. Let's see. So we're Sunday afternoon. Make sure I'm on the right day. Okay. Yeah, Sunday afternoon. Let me go back here for you. Now I'm going to plot a sounding here across the eastern half of Oklahoma. So kind of just a generic picture, if you will. So this is the GFS model, and it's got some, it's okay as far as the shear goes in the atmosphere. Not great turning with height, but these little arrows do go up from a south to a southwesterly direction. There's a pretty broad dew point depression with the temperature at the bottom, which means you're going to have some high cloud bases. This starts at around 1 kilometer, so 1,000 meters up. That's pretty high. For a tornado, you typically want cloud levels well below that. The hodograph, which is how the storm curves, it's okay. So it starts out and curves nice to the right. So in other words, the possible hazard type would be a potential tornado in this situation. It would be a weak one if you go off the historical database. So behind my head here, these little green boxes right here. This line goes over these green boxes and it picks the median value. So it's saying if you were to get a tornado in this environment, it would likely be an EF0 or EF1 is what it's saying. So those are very weak tornadoes, which is good. So this is, of course, for today, for Sunday afternoon. So this will likely change a little bit. It may become slightly more favorable, or it may be completely unfavorable at all. All it takes is the timing to be off a little bit, and this whole thing gets thrown out the window. But like I said, I'm watching it for you, and don't panic. I don't see any reason for that. It's kind of pointless at this point in time. Friday night, I'll come in and give you an update on what it's going to look like for Friday night, for Sunday. And then that'll probably be my last weather update, because I'll do a lot of things on Saturday. And then I said if it does look like a couple of tornadoes are possible, then I'll spend some time with you on Sunday covering those. But that's going to be about it. That's the weather for the next several days. Like I said, I think once we get into April, that's when these storms will pack more of a punch. They'll have more moisture to work with, better instability. And then that's whenever we'll finally get some action around the body of Oklahoma versus, say, just the eastern half or something like that. And typically that's western Oklahoma, that starts to get those severe storms first. So there you go. So I do want to thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate that. I've got some time to answer just a couple of questions. Question is, can I pick one out of this list? So I'm going to look down on my phone because for whatever reason the computer never updates. I have to look down here. Christy says way too scientific for me. Well, I do get a little technical sometimes, but I try to keep it on the down low. All right, let's see. Branson, is it going to be a washout? All right, so here's the other question. If you have any specific questions over your location, just use my weather app as far as where you want to go and just look at the forecast for that. Washout is a crazy term to use. Yes, there's going to be some rain for Missouri and Arkansas, but I wouldn't say washout. Most of the weekend's going to be fine. If you just caught the tail end of this, I always leave the videos posted so you can go back and watch it, and I'll actually add a closed captioning to it once it gets processed, which takes about an hour for that whole event to occur, and then you can share that as well. Alicia wants to know, you think this spring will have more tornadoes than last year? I talked about this on Sunday night. We did a Facebook Live then. I think just a hair more than our normal, and most of those will be in April and May. Otherwise, not a overly impressive season by any means, just what we normally see. We average about 56 tornadoes a year. It's actually 55.8 if you want to get technical, but who's going to say that? So we average about 56 tornadoes a year, and so I'm sure we'll see about that many, if not just a few more, before the season's over. Watson, what's my app called? It's called AT's Weather to Go. You can find it at aarontuttlweather.com on my website, or you can just go to the App Store, iTunes, Google Play, and just type in AT's Weather, and it should pop up. Do AT's Weather like all one word, and that may help a little bit better. Does your system show predictions for May? Yes, storms. There's always storms in May. And then hot to follow. Jay wants to know, could the low coming down slow and pump the moisture that's needed for energy? We're not going to get the deep level moisture this time of the year. It's not going to happen. And the pattern's not set up for that. It's too quick moving, so we're not going to get a good suckage, you might say, of low pressure from out west of us to really get that Gulf of Mexico to open up for a long term. So Brandon and Shane, they're my storm chasing buddies from Oklahoma Storm Chasers. I'm going to be showing those guys live when they're out there in the field chasing tornadoes. I'll be pulling them up, and we'll look at their live video together. They're dying for some action. They might have to travel to other states just to see it, but we'll see. We'll get them something. Let's see. Bellatrix, give that little .8 nader some credit. It tries really hard, I'll say. Cammy, thanks. I'm glad that helped to calm your nerves down a little bit for the weather. I appreciate that. Anna, how can I use your app to get details from another location? I'll be traveling to Houston next week, Wednesday through Sunday. So here, I'll just show you this. See how well this works on the fly. All right, so you started up my app, AT's Weather. And if you go over here at the top, it says current location. So you tap that down here, and you can enter a new location. So you can put any address in there you want. And then when you do, it'll give you the current conditions for that spot, and it'll give you the forecast for that spot. And so that's how you just get weather on the fly. Now, if you want to be alerted, like severe weather, storm-wise, you go back up to that menu, you hit safety nets. And so when you hit safety net alerts, you go over here to locations, and you say add a location down here where it's got a little plus sign. And there you can enter anything you want. If you got a grandma's house down in Houston you want to go visit, put her address in there, and it'll let you know if a storm is going to immediately affect that spot. It won't bother you if it's not going to. That's one of the cool things about this app. It's not going to bother you if the storm's not going to hit you directly. Because I hate being bothered for a storm that's 2 counties away or something like that. There's no need for that. So that's kind of what it does. It streamlines the whole process. So good question. Let's see. Pop this back up here. So Jay wants to know, are there any high pressure systems down south that could stall out the systems and change the moisture situation? Actually, what we need is a kind of a surface ridge of high pressure over the eastern sides of the Gulf, which we have not had. If you get it that way, you get that air that flows clockwise around a high, and it'll take all that moisture and air, kind of curve it around the western sides of it right up into Texas. That's what you need for good storm season. So, Will wants to know prospects for summer weather, hot or milder. We're kind of in a transition from a very weak La Nina back into a weak El Nino, but the El Nino should kind of get going a little bit as we head into summer. But since there'll be a lag with that, a delay in the response in the overall globe, our summer should be normal. Maybe the very end of it, kind of warmer at the very end, and then prolong it a little bit longer in the fall. But that should be what we should see. Joseph, how do I become a storm chaser? Well, lots of training. I would suggest you contact the National Weather Service and go through a Skywarn training class. Those are free for the public, and kind of get your feet wet that way. And then you can see if you really want to dive into it. It is not all glamour. It is not all Twister in the movies, and it is not all Dominator action that you see on television. So it's a lot of driving around and seeing clear blue sky. You could probably go many a storm chase and never see a tornado. But if you like spending gas money and eating out of gas stations and peeing about once every 8 hours, that's your stick. Okay. All right, so I think it's about it of the serious questions. And then sometimes we get some silly stuff going on here. And then ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, so that's about it. I want to appreciate you guys again tuning in tonight. There's a lot of you out there that had the questions about the storms, and like I said, we'll talk about Sunday a little bit later. I think Friday night is when I'll tune in. We'll be within that 48-hour window, so that's when I'll be able to tell you the most likely area for tornadoes should they occur, and then where the biggest hail will be, and then that kind of deal. Otherwise, expect your garden variety of thunderstorms, and that's about it. So. All right, boys and girls, it's time to go. All right, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Okay.